The instant I saw that woman's face, my eyes widened and I suddenly understood everything. Chapter 5. The woman standing behind Alexander was someone I had never seen before, and yet, in that first instant, something about her felt hauntingly familiar. She was tall, slender, with dark hair that fell in waves past her shoulders. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with surprise, and she was wearing a silk robe that barely reached her thighs. But it wasn't her face that made my breath catch in my throat. It was the way she was standing, the way her hand rested on Alexander's shoulder, the way she looked at him, then at me, with an expression that wasn't guilt or fear, but something else entirely, something that looked like relief. "Grace," Alexander said, his voice steady, almost calm. "I was wondering when you'd get here." I stood frozen in the doorway, my parents behind me, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my temples. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to be panicked. He was supposed to make excuses, to lie, to beg for forgiveness. Instead, he looked at me like he had been expecting me all along. "Who is she?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Alexander glanced at the woman, then back at me. "Her name is Lily. She's my sister." The words hit me like a physical blow. I staggered back a step, my hand reaching out to brace myself against the doorframe. "Your sister? You don't have a sister. You're an only child. I've met your parents. I've seen your family photos. There's no sister." Alexander's expression didn't change. "There's a lot you don't know, Grace. About me. About my family. About why I married you." Behind me, I heard my mother let out a sharp gasp. My father put a hand on her arm, steadying her. They knew. They had known all along. That was why they had tried to stop me from coming here. "What is going on?" I demanded, turning to face my parents. "What do you know about this? Why did you try to stop me?" My mother's face was ashen. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. My father looked at Alexander, then at me, and sighed. "Grace," he said, his voice heavy. "This is not the place. Let's go home. We'll explain everything." "No." I turned back to Alexander. "You're going to tell me right now. Who is she? What are you doing here? And why have you been lying to me?" Alexander took a step toward me, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Grace, please. Let's sit down. I'll tell you everything. I promise." I looked at the woman behind him. Lily. She hadn't moved. She stood there, her hand still on Alexander's shoulder, watching me with those strange, familiar eyes. And then it hit me. Why she looked familiar. She looked like me. The same bone structure, the same shape of the eyes, the same curve of the lips. She could have been my sister. My twin. "What is this?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "Is this some kind of joke?" Alexander shook his head slowly. "No joke, Grace. Lily is my sister. But she's also yours." The world tilted. I grabbed the doorframe to keep from falling. My mother rushed forward and wrapped her arms around me, but I pushed her away. "Explain," I said, my voice hard. Now, Chapter 6. The villa was larger inside than it had appeared from the street. Alexander led us into a spacious living room, furnished in soft grays and whites, with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out onto a manicured garden. Lily sat on one end of the sofa, pulling her robe tighter around herself. Alexander sat beside her, not touching, but close. My parents sat on the opposite sofa, their faces drawn. I stood in the middle of the room, refusing to sit. "Start talking," I said. Alexander took a deep breath. "You know that I was adopted. My parents, the ones you met, they adopted me when I was 3 days old. What you don't know is that I was born into a family that couldn't keep me. My birth mother was young, unmarried, and she gave me up for adoption to give me a better life. I knew this.